martial arts teacher to everybody interested in learning. During those formative years, she developed an ethos that is absolutely remarkable, a fabric of lawfulness interwoven with an unwavering commitment to financial gain at the expense of spiritual endeavors. Throughout this crucial period of her life, she was captivated by the allure of financial success and the never-ending quest for cash. She was a corrections officer in a maximum security jail holding the most serious offenders, frequently serving terms of 25 years or longer. When she was 33 years old, the spiritual vibrations that resonated within these prison walls were distinct, yet her focus stayed squarely on material concerns. Night shifts were common for her, and she sometimes worked long, tiring shifts, up to 14 hours. Overshadowed by demonic spirits, the sleep-robbing memories of the prison's gruesome sights plagued her nights of restless insomnia, caused by the incessant demands of her routine. She ran a martial arts studio alongside her job as a corrections officer. The only time she had off from the possibility of having to work overtime was on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, which were her only days off. On a bright Tuesday morning, she remembers being incredibly energetic and alert. Not like her usual self, she looked forward to an amazing day that would allow her to spend quality time with her kids. A welcome change from the monotony of working overtime, she set out on her way home in her van, her corrections officer uniform still hanging loosely around her. She drove for an hour along Route 3, a simple route surrounded by cornfields, and she was very careful not to break the 70 miles per hour speed limit, especially in her official uniform. Out of nowhere, in an instant, mayhem broke out. Her wheels and brakes mysteriously locked up, and her van began a terrifying hydroplaning and spinning incident, maybe due to a brief state of lethargy or an accidental fall into sleep. In her haste to regain control, her speed soared from 70 to 75, 80, then 85 miles per hour, leaving her bewildered and confused. She looked over the shoulder and saw something unsettling, a car coming from the other way, with a woman and two small children inside. At that precarious moment, she made up her mind that she could not put their lives in jeopardy alongside her own, no matter what had caused this chaos. So, with unflinching resolve, she gathered all her strength and wheeled to the right. At 85 miles per hour, she approached a concrete barricade. Interestingly, the pace of time decelerated as the impact drew near. She had an unexplainable grin on her face and absolutely no anxiety as she firmly grasped the wheel. After that, a sound unlike anything she had ever heard slammed down. Like billowing blankets, airbags slowly expanded. She was completely bewildered by the ordeal. On waking up, she discovered that she was upside down, dangling within the crumpled shell of her van like a twisted Coke can. Akin to swords or a fork, the other car had transformed into a tool of pressure, relentlessly pressing down on her. As she awoke, she felt a thrill unlike any other. She stirred from her sleep. There was no sound, no pain, no smell, and no tactile feeling. All had mysteriously disappeared, as if the world's customary din had been purged. A profound stillness engulfed her. Her mind was free of thoughts, which meant there was no space for questions or doubts. There, in that realm of suspended animation, she was calm, protected, happy, and at home. All around her, the car's debris loomed, but she stayed trapped within. She beat the odds despite the fact that the impact was most severe on the driver's seat, where she had been sitting. Completely unconcerned, she experienced an endless, unexplained tickling. She lived in a world free of problems, negativity, uncertainties, and questions. She existed in an unconditional, pure environment. She began to realize things more clearly as time went on. She would have to leave this world if she couldn't free herself from this situation. Surprisingly, this possibility was met with a wonderful emotion. Eventually, her eyes left the road and met those of a woman who seemed to be always on the go. The woman, who looked to be in her mid-60s, was dressed like someone from the 1800s. She wore a headscarf and had a noticeable burn scar on her right face, which contributed to her mysterious appearance. Words failed her in her inverted situation as she felt her world crumble around her. She wailed for help, but the woman in black just shook her head, communicating only non-verbally. She may have experienced bewilderment and irritation in an alternative setting, but in this otherworldly condition, she took up the woman's quiet rejections, seeing a story under the surface. She deduced from the woman's body language that she needed to devise her own strategy to escape this predicament. The mysterious woman appeared to be a messenger sent to help her find a solution to her own particular problem. While stranded upside down, she was filled with profound appreciation for the woman. Despite the language barrier, they were able to communicate deeply and silently. There was a tremendous sensation of clarity as time seemed to stand still in this bizarre cocoon. Meeting the woman in black was a watershed moment that gave her a stronger bond to life. She changed her life and gained a greater appreciation for the beauty of life as a result of the revelation of a reality that beyond human comprehension. The world changed drastically when I closed my eyes. Amidst the mayhem, she made her way back. She could feel the engine still running, and she knew she had to switch it off immediately. As she took stock of her environment, the pain in her wounded knee intensified her fear. She was confused by the large crowd that had formed outside the car, which included fire trucks and ambulances. The paramedics' harsh caution not to move resounded, even though she insisted she was all right. A short intravenous injection was given through the open window. She requested to be liberated from the automobile after becoming frustrated with the strange IV technique, but the paramedics were adamant about using the jaws of life to remove her. She closed her eyes and entered a meditative state amidst the mayhem while they worked on the rescue. Firefighters were dismantling her vehicle as bystanders went wild, but she kept her composure. Without her knowledge or permission, they severed her outfit and injected her with morphine after she got out of the vehicle. After that, they put her on a stretcher and stated that the horrific incident had probably caused her to suffer from internal bleeding, several fractures, and maybe even brain damage. She worked up the nerve to question a sheriff on the way to the hospital in an intensive care unit whether it was against the law to ignore a person in need. Responders and those summoned by individuals from a neighboring prison were the only ones present, according to the sheriff. Surprisingly, despite the car's significant damage, the doctors at the hospital found no injuries or bruises. The following day, she returned to her job and even paid a visit to the junkyard where her car had been stolen, astonishment spreading as she recounted her incredible escape. Following these unexpected occurrences, she had a string of profound spiritual experiences and visions. It should be noted that she formerly had skepticism and frequently made fun of religious and spiritual ideas. Her relationships, career, and social circle were all profoundly impacted by these events, which started to alter her life. Despite her initial resistance, she eventually came to consider these life-altering shifts as opportunities for growth. It took months, if not years, for her spirit to negotiate its arduous path. She received messages with strange numbers and learned she had psychic skills while on her journey. The process was difficult, but everyone eventually came around. After a defining moment in her life, she experienced a spiritual awakening that seemed like a new beginning. Like escaping from an egg, it was a painful and emotionally taxing experience. Reuniting with her twin flame, an important stop on her spiritual path, took 7 years of slow, steady growth. Not eliminating the ego, but striking a balance where her soul directed her choices was the objective. She has been reaching out to help people all over the world since then, and she continues to gain new insights and wisdom every day. Many people wanted to know if a spiritual awakening might be achieved without having a near-death experience. NDE. A firm no was the response she gave. A quick grin, the arrival of a new baby, the feeling of love, or a deep connection with one's soul could spark a sudden spiritual